Welcome to the Wealth Dialogue. I'm Emily.
And I'm Jack.
Most people don't fail at budgeting because they're inherently bad with money.
No, not at all.
They fail because the budget they created was, I don't know, an aspirational fiction. It was never designed to survive contact with real life.
That's it, exactly. And when that budget collapses, people tend to internalize that failure.
Yeah.
They think, I lack discipline. But the source material is so clear on this. The fault isn't with the person, it's with the system itself.
So if budgeting has ever stressed you out, this deep dive is, well, it's going to be a breath of fresh air.
We're really moving away from, let's say, restrictive accounting and more toward a sustainable behavioral diagnosis.
That distinction is everything, isn't it? Moving from restriction to diagnosis,
Yeah.
We're pulling insights from material that's all about figuring out why those initial plans just fall apart.
And more importantly, offering specific, practical advice to build something that lasts.
Something that absorbs shocks instead of shattering. Okay, let's unpack this. The mission here is to find out what practical steps you can take. Like today. Steps built entirely around your real spending habits, not some idealized version of who you think you should be.
And that reality check is, well, that's where we have to start. The biggest failure point is making a budget that's just unrealistic from day one.
By trying to copy someone else's system.
Exactly. A system you saw online, maybe, that has nothing to do with your income, your life.
So, if the central thesis is that an unrealistic budget is the biggest point of failure, what does that actually look like? I mean, when it really hits the wall.
Well, people build what we call the perfect world budget.
The perfect world budget, okay.
It's built on this idea of massive, immediate deprivation. They write down rules like, I will never eat out again.
Oh, I've done that one.
Or, I'll save $800 every single month no matter what. And the classic, of course, is no more Starbucks, ever.
That feels so good on January 1st, though, right? That rush of control. But I can tell you, after maybe 2 or 3 days of eating leftovers and skipping coffee, I just hit a wall. I'd have one bad morning, buy a single latte, and then my brain goes, well, the budget's ruined for the month. Might as well get takeout for dinner.
That is the classic Starbucks crash.
Yeah.
It's so common. That extreme approach, it works for maybe 10 days if you're lucky,
Right.
but it's completely unsustainable. Real life always shows up. A friend invites you out, your kid needs something for school, or, like you said, you just have a stressful morning. The whole thing collapses because it had no shock absorption.
And the psychological damage is the worst part. You don't think, oh, the budget failed. You feel you failed.
Precisely. The budget is treated like this strict moral ledger. And the moment you make one mistake, all this shame and guilt sets in.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, okay, I need to adjust the plan because I'm a human being, the user thinks, I am bad at this, and then they just abandon the whole thing. That guilt is a huge motivator for budget avoidance.
And once that feeling hits, it just spirals. That abandonment, it leads directly to the next trap, which is you just stop tracking anything.
Of course.
If I feel guilty about spending, the last thing I want to do is log into an app and confirm my failure.
You've nailed it.
Yeah.
A budget without consistent tracking is, it's basically useless. It's like a roadmap without a GPS. You have no idea where you are.
It's just a document you made once.
Right. It's like a diet without a scale. You
Yeah.
have no idea if your behavior is actually driving the result you want. You're just flying blind.
And that leads to another problem, right? The actual effort of tracking, what some call financial friction.
Yes, that's a key concept.
Yeah.
Financial friction is just the effort required to maintain the system. If your tracking method is some super detailed spreadsheet that takes you 30 minutes every night,
Forget it.
you're going to abandon it. The friction is too high. The easier the system, the less friction, and the more likely you are to stick with it.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's hit the third trap. This one gets the really dedicated budgeters, the ones who do track but are still completely stressed out. They believe a budget has to be strict and painful to work.
And what's fascinating here is that this mindset, this idea of scarcity or punishment, it's fundamentally self-defeating.
How so?
If the main emotion you associate with your money is deprivation, your brain will naturally resist it. A budget is not supposed to be a punishment. It should be a guide that protects what you actually care about.
A guide, not a jail cell.
Exactly. If the system is so strict that it has no room for fun or mistakes or unexpected things, it will backfire. The user will always abandon it just for a sense of relief.
Okay, so we have thoroughly diagnosed the problem. It's a psychological failure, it's built on logistical difficulty, and just unrealistic expectations. The goal is not to be a robot.
Not at all. It's to create a sustainable structure that absorbs the bumps of life without imploding.
So let's give our listener the solutions. What are the, say, 6 non-negotiable steps to fix a failing budget, starting today?
We need to shift entirely away from those ideal goals and anchor ourselves in reality.
Okay, lay out step 1 for me.
Tip number 1, start with your real spending, not your ideal spending.
Okay.
To do this, you have to look at your last 90 days of financial data. That 90-day period, that defines your real lifestyle, your real habits, your actual cost of living, whether you like those numbers or not.
The budget has to be built from that baseline.
It has to be, not from some theoretical number you wish you could hit.
Okay, I have to push back a little here. For someone who's already feeling stressed or ashamed about their spending, the idea of downloading 3 months of bank statements, that sounds like a huge barrier.
It is challenging. It's uncomfortable, no question.
So how do we get past that?
That confrontation is the most vital step toward diagnosis. You can't treat a disease until you know what it is.
And look, modern banking apps make the logistics way less painful than they were 10 years ago.
True. No more shoeboxes of receipts. Right. What we tell people is, the first time you do this 90-day review, just pretend you're a scientist studying a stranger's finances. It removes the emotion. You're just gathering data.
I like that. Objective data gathering.
Once you have that truth, the guesswork is gone. And so is the guilt that comes from starting with a lie.
Okay, so you have your baseline, you've faced the truth. What's the next critical step?
Tip number 2, give every dollar a job. Before the month even begins, every single dollar that comes in needs a clear purpose. Groceries, rent, fund money, savings, debt. If a dollar is just sitting there, it's just waiting to be spent impulsively.
That sounds like zero-based budgeting, right?
Right.
Income minus expenses equals 0.
It is exactly zero-based budgeting.
Yeah.
And it's so psychologically powerful because it completely eliminates decision fatigue.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you have $100 left over at the end of the month, your brain starts debating, should I save it? Should I spend it? But if you assign that $100 to your vacation fund on day 1,
The decision is already made.
the decision is made. It gives you incredible clarity and reduces that mental load of constantly policing yourself.
I love that. Protection through pre-commitment.
Hmm.
Okay, now let's tackle the core problem of that perfect world budget, the unexpected costs that always blow everything up.
That brings us to tip number 3. Add a life happens category.
A life happens category.
This is absolutely crucial. We tell people to set aside a specific small amount, maybe $50 to $150 a month, just for those surprises.
Wait, I have to challenge this a bit. Isn't that just admitting your budget is flawed? And why not just use your emergency fund? What's the real difference?
That's an excellent question. An emergency fund is for catastrophes.
Yeah.
Job loss, a huge medical bill, rare event.
Right, big stuff.
The life happens category, or a buffer fund, is for the small, annoying, but predictable unpredictability of life.
Like what?
An unannounced birthday party at work, a parking ticket, needing a new light bulb for your fridge. If you pull $30 from your $10,000 emergency fund for a burger, the logistics get messy and it feels like a failure. This buffer protects the integrity of your tracking.
So it's a preventative layer. It stops this shame spiral over a $20 expense.
Exactly.
Okay, so once we have our baseline and our buffer, how do we handle those big impulse buys, the ones that happen when you're browsing online at 10 p.m.?
That brings us to tip number 4. Use the 48-hour rule for impulse purchases.
The 48-hour rule.
For anything that's not essential, you have to impose a mandatory waiting period of 48 hours. If you still want it 2 days later, then you can proceed.
I struggle with that one. What if I see a great deal online? In 48 hours, that deal could be gone.
It might. And that risk is part of the rule. The goal here isn't to optimize for price, it's to optimize for behavior. The 48-hour rule breaks the emotional link between desire and transaction. Most impulse buys are driven by excitement or anxiety, feelings that fade. If you still want it after 2 days, it's probably an intentional purchase, not an impulsive one.
That totally reframes it. It's a behavioral interrupt. Okay, so how do we maintain this system without spending hours on spreadsheets every weekend?
You don't have to. That's tip number 5. Review every Sunday. The commitment is only 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes to look at your major categories and make small adjustments. You can catch an overspend and decide, okay, I'll cook dinner Tuesday instead of ordering out. You make small corrections before they become catastrophes.
So it's low friction, high impact maintenance.
Consistency over intensity. Every single time.
And finally, motivation. How do we keep going?
Tip number 6 is to make it fun and reward yourself. If the budget feels like constant punishment, you will quit. It's human nature.
You have to build in some wins.
You have to. Incorporate small, planned rewards for hitting your goals. Celebrate the minor victories. It keeps you in the game.
That set of 6 steps feels so much more actionable. It really shifts the focus onto sustainable behavior. But sometimes the best way to understand this is to see it in action. Do you have an example that really illustrates the problem and the solution?
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we could look at the case of a man we'll call David. David was a high earner, he made good money, but he always felt broke.
And his budget failed every month.
Every single month.
Yeah.
He was plunging him into these debt cycles.
So what was his perfect world budget actually like? What was the mistake?
His budget was mathematically perfect, but behaviorally a complete disaster. He tried to save 30% of his income by just eliminating all discretionary categories.
So like 0 for fun.
0 for fun. He budgeted $50 a month for his own groceries, which was impossible. And 0 for takeout, even though his 90-day review showed he actually spent around $800 a month on food delivery and subscriptions.
He was budgeting like a robot.
Exactly. So the moment he bought one burger or one movie ticket, just one tiny, unplanned expense,
The whole plan collapsed.
the whole thing, he'd say, well, I failed, and then just spend freely for the rest of the month.
So he was being penalized for just being human. How did you fix it with these principles?
We forced him to start with the truth. We rebuilt his entire budget, starting from his real $800 dining baseline. Then we slowly gave every dollar a job.
So instead of 0 for takeout?
We budgeted $400. We cut it in half, but we still allowed room for reality. We brought in the 48-hour rule for all the impulse tech purchases he was making. And crucially, we set up that $100 Life Happens Fund.
So he was allowed to be human again?
You were allowed to be human, and the guilt he felt over minor things just vanished.
And what was the long-term result? Did shifting from perfection to reality actually lead to real savings?
Absolutely. And the change was fast
Yeah.
because all that emotional pressure was just gone. Within 60 days, his financial stress had evaporated because he wasn't constantly fighting an impossible standard. That $400 he was still spending on takeout felt like a choice, not a failure.
And that stability let him see where the real savings were.
Exactly. Within 6 months, he didn't just meet his goals, he blew past them. He saved over $4,000.
Wow.
And that saving didn't come from deprivation. It came from diagnostic reallocation. He cut subscriptions he never used and optimized the spending he actually wanted to keep.
That's a phenomenal example. It really proves that realistic beats perfect every single time. So what does this all mean? For you, the listener, it means your financial stability, it doesn't start with some arbitrary limit. It starts with simple, realistic steps that are anchored in your actual behavior. Success comes from acknowledging how you really spend, building in flexibility with buffers, and creating a guide for yourself, not a punishment.
And if you look closely at the source material, tip 6, the one about rewards, it proves that budgeting is so deeply tied to behavioral science. If starting with your real spending is the key, you have to take that 90-day data and analyze it critically. Ask yourself, what are the hidden, non-essential habits that I'm implicitly rewarding without even realizing it?
That's a deep question.
Is that $15 subscription really providing value? Or is it just funding a habit of convenience you've never challenged? Recognizing those behavioral loops fundamentally changes the purpose you assign to your dollars. And it raises an important question. If you're using money right now to fund avoidance or emotional comfort, how do you replace those needs with non-financial coping mechanisms so that your dollar can finally be redirected toward true wealth building? That's the deeper behavioral layer to think about as you start your own 90-day review.